Hi guys, I've been meaning to record this tutorial showing you how to model and render this iPhone headphone jack, I think it's called, for quite a while, and I've just not got around to it. So we're going to have a go at that today. It's pretty straightforward, but it might teach you a few things. The one here I've actually rendered using my new HDRI Studio render pack, which I'm semi-plugging, although I'm not going to use it on this tutorial today, and that's because I've changed machines and I haven't yet transferred it onto this new machine. So hopefully that will mean there's no noisy fans today. So let's get cracking. So first thing I did was I had a quick look for an image around as a reference really, and that I can use as a blueprint. Didn't find a great deal, so I kind of found one and I've tweaked it a little bit. I'll probably put that on the site so you can download it. I'll link that up in the video for you. So here we go. So first thing I want to do is throw in a blueprint file, and into the front I'm going to load this image that I've got. Call it Jack Reference. Let's have a look. I'm also not using a mouse today, so probably going to be struggling along with the trackpad, but we'll see how it goes. So I'm just changing my views into, I'm in the back view for some reason, I want to be in front view. I think what I need to do is flip my blueprint a little bit. Probably going to need to do a bit of an offset here. Oh wait, or can we just move it? Let's just move it. I'm going to grab my blueprint and just pull that to the middle. Just roughly the middle. So we're kind of set up now to start modelling. So I'm going to come into that front view. I'm using my keyboard shortcuts. If you don't have keyboard shortcuts assigned, have a look at my video on YouTube for assigning them. I use the numerical keys 1 through 9 for various different cameras. So 1's main camera, 2's perspective, 3's front, and so on and so on. I won't tell you them all because it gets pretty boring. So first thing I need to do is put a cylinder in the scene, and it's huge, so I'm just going to come out to the camera view for a minute. I'm going to crank this down to about 16 sections, I think. Again, I'm a bit slow because I've not got my mouse, but we'll press on anyway. I'm going to bring the radius down. At the moment I'm just doing it so I can actually see what I'm working with. So if I go back into the front view, which is keyboard 3 for me, and I'm tweaking 0.04 looks roughly about right, give or take. 0.041, 0.045, there we go. Okay, that looks about right. The height is wrong, so I'm going to condense that down until it's, yeah, that looks about right to me. I'm going to move that over a little bit. Okay, that's not bad. Right, so just zooming in now, position that down just a touch. Really, from here on in, it's kind of about extruding or covering and just pulling and transforming. I'm just getting that rough shape there. So I'm just going to grab these bottom polygons a minute because it's not quite the right height. Collapse my mesh by double clicking, grab these bottom polygons, and I'm going to come back into that front view keyboard 3, just bring that down to the edge there. Okay, that's what I wanted. So the next thing to do is I'm going to press C for cover. I'm going to select the scale tool. I'm going to scale in. I'm going to just jump into perspective mode here. Have a look at that. Okay, that looks okay. Go back into keyboard 3, and I'm going to cover it again and pull down. Okay, so what you can see has happened there is that, because it's difficult to see in this view, I'm going to bring that down to the edge of here anyway. It's not quite the right thickness, so I'm going to press Apple Shift and X, which is going to increase my selection. Come back into polygon, into perspective view. Select the scale option and just scale in. Go back into camera 3, scaling in again. There we go, and I'm going to just drag this up. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to scale it up like this. There we go. Similar procedure going on at the bottom as well, so just go into perspective, or actually let's teach you another shortcut. Well, it's Apple Shift D will reduce the selection. So that's just reduced the selection back down, so we've just got those end polygons. And I'm going to call a cover. I'm going to transform scale, bring it in a bit, and I'm going to press cover again, C, and then I'm going to pull down. And that's more or less right this time. This one we can go down quite a way because this is the actual cable now. And that'll do for that bit. So let's come to the top now. A little bit more going on at the top. For this, I am going to come into camera or perspective view, doesn't really matter which, select those ones. I'm going to call inner extrude, which I've set to I. I'm going to extrude in just a touch. Then I'm going to call cover, I'm going to transform, T for transform, or that tool up there. I'm going to pull up. And the same thing's happened again, it's not really the right size, so I'll push Shift X to increase that selection. Go into the scale tool, scale it until it looks about right. I'm going to put it in the middle, and then again I'm going to pull on the scale. Okay, so now we have this little white bit. I don't know the technical name for it, but it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to reduce that selection. I'll push Shift D back up to those top polygons. I'm going to cover, and I'm going to pull again. And I'm just going to block these out really quickly by pressing C, and then just moving, C, moving up again, C, up again, a couple more. Again, you can see we've got a bit of shape to adjust here. So let's get this positioned a bit better. I'm not so good in the trackpad, but we'll get there. Okay, cool. I'm going to call C again and come back into the move mode up to this edge here. I'm going to scale it out again now. Always dragging from the middle on my scale because I want it to scale in all directions. And we'll call another cover, which will then put up to here. And I'm going to scale that down. Okay, so very roughly, just coming into camera mode again, we've now got roughly what we wanted. That's more or less the basic modelling done. What you'll notice, if you've got a plug near, it will be a lot better, which I haven't. I've not got a lot with me right now. But what I will do is, we're just going to quickly, you can see that these white areas, they step in. So we're going to make those step in. So I'm going to use ring select, which I have set to R. If you haven't got ring select set to R, just control click and choose ring select there. So I'm going to ring select that loop there. I'm going to shift click on that one and on that one. Then I'm going to call inner extrude, which I've set to I. Again, you can control click to get that. I'm going to preserve group, make sure that's checked, otherwise it will inner extrude every single polygon separately. And there we go. I'm going to do this just a very, very small amount. You can barely even see the gaps. That's pretty much what I wanted. And then I'm going to call normal move. There it is, normal move. Normal move moves a polygon basically perpendicular to itself. So if I come out, it will like that. But we're just going to step in just slightly. Maybe that I've got some kind of snapping in place, but actually I don't mind that. Yeah, that's looking alright. Kind of happy with that. Not perfect, but I'm not going for perfection here. I'm just kind of trying to show you quickly how to get there. So the area that's looking a bit weird for me at the moment is this bit here. We've got a very sharp kind of angle here from this white area, and you can see on here it's not quite as sharp as that. So I'm going to press X and I'm going to drop a ring cut into there, come into edge mode. I've got that loop selected, and I'm going to call normal move on that. I'm just going to pull that out very slightly if I can. Not really working for me like that, so I'm going to use the scale tool instead. Just going to allow me to do it a little bit less, obviously. Just going to pull that loop up a little bit. Again, I'm not going for perfection, but that has a better feel about it. Also, I'm not mad keen on this incredibly flat top. So what I'm going to do there is select those polygons, I for inner extrude. I'm going to inner extrude that just a little bit. And I'm going to press T for transform and just bring that up. Round that off a little bit. So if you can see I'm in front view. We're just taking the edge off that very, very harsh stop that we had. Not a massive amount, but enough to kind of make it look a little bit more real. Right, the next problem we've got is when we throw a subdivision on here, it's going to absolutely obliterate what we've got. And that looks nothing like what we want. So get rid of that subdivision in a second. We're going to need a lot more ring cuts to kind of protect these edges. So anywhere we want a hard edge, we're going to need to either use a crease, which I don't really use, or we're going to need some strategic ring cuts placing. So I'm going to go into edge mode and I've pressed X for ring cut, and I'm going to drop quite a number of cuts relatively close to edges now. The closer these are to edges when you apply your subdivision, the sharper the edge will be. So if you want some soft edges, move them a little bit further away. And just looking at the reference image down here, you can see this is a lot softer than what I'd kind of anticipated. So I'm going to put a couple a bit further away down there, but on this edge here, quite tight. And come in nice and close now. Something like that, all the way along our model. And this is a bit of a pain, but sometimes that's the way it is. Oops. Okay, so that's kind of that area done. Now we're going to get down into these detailed bits. The same principle applies. Going to need a heck of a lot of ring cuts here. The reason I don't use creases and I opt for manually placing cuts is that it gives you a lot more control. Creases either hard or not. The more geometry you have, the more control you've got. You can move it around, you can soften those edges up a little bit. Sometimes a crease is fine. Also, if you're going to be moving around into different renderers, creases very rarely translate too well. So I just don't depend on them at all if I can help it. Another cut there, one there, and there, and there. You can see what I'm doing. Going in nice and close. Again, it's not about perfection. If I was going for more 100% accuracy, I'd probably use the bevel tool and have a certain step amount set, just to kind of keep everything the same. But working at this level and for this kind of render that I'm doing now, I'm not that bothered. And we'll put one there, and I think the one up here. Sorry, I'm not used to moving around quite so well with the trackpad, but I'm going to put that one a little bit looser there. We'll probably put one about there and one there. Some of these may or may not work out, we'll find out in a minute. But I think we kind of put all the cuts in more or less that we want. I may just quickly bunch here. So click and pull away, click and pull away. I'll put it in the exact centre. The reason I'm putting these in is that I might want to bend this cable. I haven't got any geometry, I won't be able to. So just quickly doing this. I could have done this probably a quicker way, but at least it teaches you how to put a ring cut in the centre. That'll be fine for me there. Happy with that. This grid's kind of getting in my way now, so I'm just going to turn the grid off a second. And coming into object mode. I'm going to throw on my subdivision again now. See how we're looking. Okay, now we're getting there. Our white steps just looking a little bit deep for me, and that's probably because I used the normal move and it just wasn't quite as accurate as the scale. So I'm just going to take that off a second, come into polygon mode, ring select. I'm going to ring select that one, and that one, and that one. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use Apple Shift X to increase that selection by 1, 2 should be fine. And then I'm going to use T for transform. I'm just going to scale these out a little bit. They're just stepping too far for me at the moment. So I've just scaled those out a tiny little bit. Throw my subdivision back on, and that's starting to feel a little bit better now. And I think I'm going to run with that. The only one that's looking a little bit weird is this one up here, and this is just a little bit too smooth. So, leaving my subdivision on this time, I'm going to loop select. I'm not going to loop select, it won't let me with a subdivision on. I'll just take the subdivision. I want to loop select this loop here, and I want to call a bevel. I'm just going to click and pull. That will keep that edge a little bit harder, that's what I wanted. And I wasn't 100%. Maybe I just need a cut there as well. I'll throw that subdivision back on, let's see how that's looking. Okay, so I'm kind of mostly alright. Again, just the smoothness down here I'm not mad keen on. What I might do is just drop a bevel on that. I'm going to delete the subdivision. I find it gets in the way quite a lot. Yeah, what I needed to do there was just add a ring cut, just about there. That should be fine. Throw that subdivision on again. That's it. That's much better. Right, we're going to go with it this time. Happy now. Let's get rendering up. It's probably time I did a save. I'm going to call it Jack. There we go. And let's make some materials. We're going to need 3. So the first one is the kind of white colour there. It's a little bit of an off-white, something like that. I'll give it a tiny little bit of reflection. Not much, just a little bit. We'll leave that like that for now. I'm going to just turn the specular off. Set that to black. Okay. Copy that material. Paste again. We've got just down here the cable's slightly grayer. So I'm just going to drag that colour down, the diffuse channel down a little bit. That's that one. We'll use this white for these areas here, I think. And we'll add one of the metal. We'll use silver for the actual chrome. It's time to start applying those. So, I'm going to collapse this subdivision into the mesh now. It's a kind of point of no return. Or is it? I'm just wondering whether that is the best method. Yeah, I think we'll try and go without it actually, right. Let's have a look. So, now because we've got so many ring cuts, it becomes a little bit of a pain getting the exact areas that we wanted selected, but we will manage. I think I am going to collapse this subdivision into place. There we go. No, I'm not. I've decided against it again. I can't quite make my mind up today. We might get away with it. So what I'm going to do is let's do the cable first. That's the easy one, this grey down here. So selecting these polygons here. Oh, it's not going to let me. That's what I want there. Just draw around them. Right, I'm going to press Apple Shift X, which we've used a few times, and just keep increasing that selection. Okay, and just coming close now because I want to make sure I've got the right bit. See, I want this to go one more polygon set, and let's throw that grey onto there. Perfect. Next job, we'll get the white colour in place. A little bit more difficult now. I'm going to come into front view, which is number 3 for me. And I'm going to use an area select, and I'm going to just try and see what this is going to do for me. Okay, that possibly has worked. May have just selected one polygon loop too far for me, but that's cool because we can press Apple Shift D. And then I'll drop this white material on. Excellent, that's exactly what I wanted. Looks like we're working. And we'll start putting on the metal now. I'm going to do this a bit of a crude way, but it will be okay. So, again, I'm going to use an area select here. I'm going to select over the whole jack here, down to about there. Just looking in this view a second, I'm going to Apple Shift D that just once. Then I'm going to throw on my silver. Okay, so that's the whole jack now silver. But that's okay because we can override some of that silverness. So I'm going to use ring select here, get that one again, and that one again, and I'm going to press Apple Shift X to increase that selection, make sure that's all roughly what we want, and I think it is. And I'm going to throw this white material on now. Okay, so really now, I'm going to hit the save button. We should be coloured up more or less right. I'm going to get rid of my blueprint, not too bothered about that anymore. Oops, not the camera. And then we've got our jack. I'm going to call it jack. Is it a jack? I hope it is. Calling it that all the way through. Let's rotate that. Let's turn my grid back on just so I know where things lie. Rotate that 90 degrees that way. And let's throw a bend modifier on. And it's huge. So the cage on my bend modifier is far too big. Scale that cage down, something like that. Just do it by eye. Throw a bit of angle onto that. And you can see it's bending the plug. Not really what I wanted. We're actually going to rotate that around 180 degrees up there. There we go. And now I've got a bend in the wire. That's cool. Just spotted one more thing there. You can see the subdivision taking over a little bit on these edges. So I'm just come into polygon mode just down here. I'm going to select these and call inner extrude on them and just pull in just once, just very slightly. There we go. Giving us a harder edge. I've actually never rendered anything on this new machine yet, so it should be quite interesting. Object mode. Just going to raise this up just a touch so it sits exactly on the floor. And do you know what? I can't even remember what I did for my render. Let's have a look. It looks like I've just set it on a plane. Lit with a bit of HDRI, probably nothing else. Let's have a go. Similar, one jack there, something like that. I'm just making sure the wire runs off the edge. Copy paste, let's put another one into the render, send that one back a little bit. Maybe actually, just looking at the wire, I actually went in quite close on the render there, so I'm going to do the same thing here. And I also use depth of field, as you can see blurring off in the background there. But before I put depth of field on, because it's such a render hog, I want to do the render setup really. So we're going to want an HDRI load. I don't even know if I've got the, do you know what, I haven't even got the HDRIs that come with Cheetah here, so I'm going to go and grab an HDRI, just bear with me. Okay, that was pretty painful actually, locating my HDRI files, but I've got them. We'll go for, let's go for Old Town. Old Town Pano, we're going to throw in radiosity, ambient occlusion. Let's see what that comes out like. Unknown. Let's find out. And it's tiny, and that is because, firstly, I'm on a Retina display, so everything's kind of half the size. Let's double up. In fact, let's not. Let's go 2000 by 1000. Something like that. Hit the render button. Hopefully, you can see this. And we're starting to get there. I'm not really happy with the blue wash, but that's coming from the HDRI. So I'm going to switch that HDRI to the other one that comes with Cheetah. Entrance Hall. And we're going to give that a run, see what that looks like. And now we start to get the weird gold wash. Okay. Just looking at the chrome mainly, I kind of like the chrome on this one. I don't like the blue wash, and it's a little bit bleached out. I'm going to solve some of that by firstly adding a new material, which is going to be my floor. I'm going to go for quite a dark grey with no specular whatsoever. Let's pull that down. Throw that onto the floor. I'm going to try radiosity on the tag rather than maybe the ambient occlusion was working slightly better. That is incredibly glossy as well. Let's have a look. So I'm going to switch back to ambient occlusion. I'm just going to look at the render manager again. See if I can see what's going on. I'm going to power down the ambient occlusion, I think. Try and depend a little bit more heavily on the light from the HDRI. Let's have a look. So let's power that ambient occlusion down to 0.8. Give that another render. Okay, we're getting there now. As you can see, the realism that I got on my initial render came basically from the fact that I used a different HDRI, one of my own HDRIs that I built, which is more intended as a studio type lighting. So it's got some light and dark panels basically, and it's very neutral, so it doesn't cast any colour into the scene. I would use it now, but I haven't got the file on this machine, so I'm putting up with this one. If you've got the pack, it only costs $1. Give it a try. You will need to power up the intensity of the HDRIs. Let's have a look at that render again. Other than the kind of yellows, I'm kind of not too. It's okay. It's looking okay. I'm not 100% sold. So I'm just going to power up the HDRI. I'm going to bring down the ambient occlusion a little bit more. See what this does for us. I'm going to just leave it at that today. I think I'm going to throw on the depth of field tag. Let's have a look. There it is. I'm just bringing this somewhere. Where do I want the focus to be? Do you know what? I kind of want it to fall across the two. So I'm going to move Jack 1 back in line. I remember doing this on the first render. Basically because I want the focal point to be the same on both. I think it will make for a more interesting render. So let's just have a look at that depth of field again. So that is falling kind of across the two jacks, somewhere like that. I quite like that. I'm going to just crank this up a little bit to somewhere around 0.1. Let's hit the render button. And that I can already see is massively blurred, way beyond what I wanted. So I've cranked that up way too far. Try again. Fairly impressed with the render speed on my new Mac, it has to be said. I'd have been waiting probably hours for this on my old Mac, so get them fans kicking in now, hopefully not as loud as the old ones. and it's still too out of focus. So let's come right down to 0.015. Let's hit the render button again. Always trial and error on the renders. This could be the one. Let's find out. I'll leave this one going. Okay, cool, that's coming through now and it's starting to look alright actually. I'm not going to push it much beyond this because I'm slightly concerned I might not get this on YouTube, if I'm even allowed to get files of this size length on YouTube. But you can see we've not done bad there. We've got a decent model. I'm not mad keen on the HDRI, but try the render pack without trying to push it too much. But let me know how you get on. We'll leave that there today when it fills this foreground in. As usual, loads more stuff on mac3dsoftware.com. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to push as much stuff out there as I possibly can. Post me your renders. I always like to see what you've been doing. So thanks a lot, guys, and goodbye.